As our team continues to track storms, we are also closely monitoring flood areas along the San Jacinto River and Lake Houston. In that area where you just saw TJ, that's all in Northeast Harris County.
Yeah, that area was hit pretty hard. And joining us now to discuss how today's rain is going to impact that ongoing flood, we have Jeff Lindner, meteorologist for Harris County Flood Control District. Jeff, thank you for joining us this morning. Now, to begin, we got the opportunity to chat with you yesterday. As this rain continues, what are you projecting, I guess, as far as what Harris County will experience today and just how much rain in any areas of concern?
Yeah, we're watching what y'all are watching this morning on the radar, and this is this line that is developing behind this initial line that moved through earlier this morning. And the concern is we get this band of cells that continue to move over the same areas again and again. This is what we have saw for the past week or so, and this is where we can begin to get into some issues, especially with the rainfall and the rainfall rates. So we're going to be monitoring that closely this morning. One of my bigger concerns is the rivers have crested, but unfortunately there's not a lot of capacity with respect to the primary drainage system, so your roadside ditches or your underground drainage system up around the Kingwood area. So as we're putting heavy rain on top of those areas, there's just really nowhere for the water to go. And so we're going to have to continue to watch that area very closely. Even areas away from the river that haven't had any flooding could potentially see high water today if we get heavy rainfall in that area, because the river's still high and the water can't drain out into the river because the river's high. So we're going to be watching that closely. And even down a little bit further in Harris County, we're getting some heavier rain, so we're going to have to be keeping an eye on areas further south that, for the most part, over the last week, haven't had a lot of rain. So, you know, the thing for today is to pay attention to the weather. If you're out moving around, don't drive into high water, and especially if you're out of the northeast part of the county around those rivers, expect some high water still on the roads.
You said that it's difficult because there's really just nowhere for the water to go. How long would you anticipate this to last?
Yeah, you're going to continue to see flooding along the rivers into tomorrow, possibly even into Tuesday, right along the rivers. And so, you know, I guess the good news is the rainfall itself looks to end today and into this evening. So we're not expecting additional rain as we get into the week. But today is going to be a day we're going to have to watch how things unfold, especially in that Kingwood, Humble, Huffman, Atascocita area, because, like I said, the river's high and additional rainfall has no place to go right now.
And Jeff, do we have any idea about how many homes, how many businesses have been flooded? We've certainly seen many that have been impacted.
Yeah, we have not been able to get damage assessment teams out into these areas. Obviously, the water is still high, and so until that water goes down and we can make sure that the roadways and bridges are safe to cross on, we can't get damage assessment teams out there. So it'll probably be tomorrow or Tuesday before we begin to do damage assessment. I think some good news is that from what we can tell from the air and from boats is that the structure flooding, while there has been structure flooding, is not as bad as we initially thought it was going to be. So that is some good news, but I don't want to say we're completely out of the woods yet until we get through with the rain today.
And Jeff, I was out there during Hurricane Harvey in the Kingwood area. Many people we've talked to have also mentioned they've never seen flooding like this since Harvey. Now, is this flooding similar to what we saw back in 2017?
This is well below 2017, probably about 10 feet lower than what we saw with Harvey. But this is the highest the West Fork has probably been since Harvey. So, you know, that the comment about this is the worst they've seen since Harvey is true. But it is not Harvey. Like I said, it's about 10 feet lower than Harvey.
I know some of the concerns is we are now just about a month shy of hurricane season. It's already, you know, seeing the impact of flooding in our area. What do you anticipate this season as we get closer to hurricane season officially?
Yeah, you know, looking at the forecast, it looks like a busy season, you know, a high number of storms. You know, the number of storms doesn't really matter. It depends where they hit. And so, you know, for us, do we get hit with a storm here on the Texas coast or in our area is the big question, which is why we say the same thing every year. You have to be ready. And this is the time of year that you need to be preparing for hurricane season, get those kits ready, get your plans ready, making sure you have flood insurance. Remember, flood insurance takes 30 days to go into effect. And clearly, as we have seen this week, it does not take a tropical storm or a hurricane to cause flooding here. We get flooding 12 months out of the year. And, you know, if you would have asked me last Sunday if we were expecting 25 inches of rain in our northern counties, I would have said no. So you have to be prepared for flooding around here at all times. And flood insurance, only about 30% of the residents in Harris County have flood insurance. So there's a lot of folks that are not protected from what we've seen this week, from the rising water that can damage your property.
Wow.
Jeff Lindner with the Harris County Flood Control District. We certainly appreciate your input here.
Yeah, very important information. This flooding is unpredictable at times. Thank you so much, Jeff. Well, the City of Houston Office of Emergency Management has announced Lake Houston is closed because of unsafe conditions. The agency says it's not safe to swim, kayak, boat, or take part in any other activity on the lake. They say the lake will remain closed until conditions are safe.
And we are monitoring different areas. We're taking a look. This is from our Houston TransStar cameras, a live view off the Grand Parkway at Riley Fuzzle East. You can see those raindrops on the camera. The roads out there are wet. This is in spring. Of course, we are going to see the rain continue on and off today. And KPRC2 has compiled a list of local shelters that are opening their doors up to anyone that may need it. This includes a list of shelters accepting pets as well. You can find that list on our website at clicktohouston.com.